Thank you so much, Alex. That was a wonderful way to start the service. Good morning, gentle people. Thanks for joining us in person, if you're here in Tucson, on this deliciously cloudy morning. Yay! And online. Thank you for being here as well. I hope you've got something comfy and a big mug of something steamy to enjoy the morning with. My name is Kelly. I am a member here at Rincon, but also a member of the Worship, Music, and Arts team. My pronouns are she and they. Either is fine. Don't worry about it one way or another. Now, Reverend Lewis Mitchell, our pastor, is traveling home from Atlanta as we speak. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the I Am Human organization in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're really happy that he had a chance to be there in person to accept that award. So this morning, our very own Dax Franklin Hicks will be leading us in worship. And something that didn't make it into your bulletin, but it will be happening today, it'll be happening right after the sermon, is that we'll be affirming or reaffirming our open and affirming statement for Rincon Congregational United Church of Christ. And our moderator, Beth, will be leading us in that, so it'll be right after the sermon. So for those of you here in the pews, if you see the friendship pads on each side, please pick it up, write your name, pass it down, and read the names when you get back, and don't forget to greet the folks that are in your aisle. If you are online, please drop us a hello, and we've got somebody monitoring the chat, and we'll say hi back, and thank you so much for being with us today. Are there new folks here that have never been in worship that would like to introduce yourself? There's no pressure, you can or can't. Am I missing anybody?
Can I introduce some people?
Absolutely.
I'm going to introduce some people I was asked to. So my son is here. His name's Angelo. Angelo, do you mind waving to people? That's our son, Angelo. And my mom is also here. This is my mom, Terry. And I have a lot of friends that came today, and I'm not going to make them introduce themselves, but will you all just wave? These are my friends that came today, so love you guys.
Thank you so much for being here to support Dax. We're excited to hear what he brings to worship this morning. So part of our announcements every week is that we acknowledge that we're worshiping on the ancestral lands of many Native people. And we do this as a means of reminding ourselves to steward the land with the care that was offered in the generations that came before us. But it's also a call to make sure that we're developing relationships with the descendants of those people who stewarded the land. And those people are our neighbors. They're still here. And so we're called to be in relationship with them so that we can all thrive and survive 7 generations hence. So let's see. One announcement that I know of, and I'll take other announcements from the floor in just a moment. We have a pet blessing coming this Saturday. So it's October 22nd, 10 to 11 a.m., in the patio in front of Fellowship Hall. I'd like to introduce a few of them to you now. We have this one, wearing a mask, of course. And this is actually a dinosaur or a T-Rex or something. And this one is a teddy bear. We've collected them from our family members so that they can be present with us next week. I'm not done. We also have a few icons to share with you. These are pictures painted of our pets so that we all have our pets with us at all times. Okay, we're glad they could join us in worship today. So for the pet blessing, please bring your pets in person on a leash, or photos of pets who do not travel well. That would be my dog. So you won't get a chance to meet him in person, but he's one of the icons up here. If you have any pets that are no longer with the guardians or parents and you would like a blessing, please bring them so that we can remember them and all they did to make your lives joyful. So let's see, and we have ions and we have stuffed pets as well. So if any of those fall into a category that speaks to you, please come next Saturday in the patio in front of Fellowship Hall. There will be, let's see if I remembered it. Here we are. There'll be water and snacks for both the pets and the pet parents and family members. And there's also going to be biodegradable pet waste bags that we offer there. So we're really looking forward to having everybody come and get a chance to meet the animals that bring you joy. So, the other thing, my apologies. Bring either a cell phone with you so that we can snap a picture, or if you would prefer, we have a volunteer that will be taking pictures, and we'll get those developed and send them to you. So you've got something to remember the day by. All right, any other announcements from the floor? Did I forget anything? Larry.
Good morning. I'm Larry Schloss, and I just wanted to remind you that this coming Saturday will be the next session of our Casa Maria feeding project. Saturday we'll make about 1,500 to 1,800 sandwiches, some ham and cheese, some peanut butter and jelly, but we need your help. So if you are able, come at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. Join us in the Fellowship Hall. It's a fun experience. It's easy when we have 15 to 18 people. It's a bit of a grind if we only have a half a dozen because the sandwich still remains the same. So if you can join us next Saturday at 8 o'clock, and we appreciate all your help.
Terrific, Larry. See, there's 2 reasons to come to church next Saturday morning. All right, any other announcements? Terrific. Then if you would rise in body or spirit for the call to worship, I know we'll take it from here.
Good morning. I'm going to try to do my part from the podium, or at least part of it. I'll probably have to do my Bible verses from sitting because I can't stand that long. But join me in the call to worship. God of love, your presence is welcomed among us. Touch our hearts that we may open to the way you live and move in each of us. Allow us to see and hear you, that the faces and voices around us may tell more fully who you are. Be present in my life, that I may be the face and voice of love for another person today. Come, O God of life, love, and presence. Show us the way to renewed relationship and reveal to us your gentle, ever-present being. May you be here now. Please join us in the singing of our sanctuary song.
Thanksgiving, Amen.
Our contemporary voice selection today is from Anne Lamott. You can safely assume you've created God in your own image when it turns out that God hates all the same people that you do.
All right, remain standing for our hymn 393, Blessed Be the Tie That Binds.
Please listen for the still speaking God's voice. Our first reading is from the Hebrew Scriptures, Genesis 32, 22 to 31. The same night he got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maids, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jacob. He took them and sent them across the stream, and likewise everything that he had. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then the man said, "You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans, and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, yet my life is preserved." The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. Our second reading is from Psalms 121, a song of ascents. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. And our final reading is from the New Testament, Luke 18, 1-8. Then Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. He said, in a certain city, there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people. In that city, there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, "Grant me justice against my accuser." For a while he refused, but later he said to himself, "Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, Yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice so that she may not wear me out by continually coming." And the Lord said, "Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you that he will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?" Thus ends our readings for today.
All of us are loved. Each of us is welcome. No one is a stranger. No one is an outcast. No one is alone. Everything we do, when our hearts are grateful and our lives are faithful, makes a better world, one that we can call everybody's home. Juntos por amor, cada quien precioso. Nadie es un extraño, nadie es invocado, nadie es sin calor. Cada paso fiel, con virtud y gozo, vamos construyendo un mundo mejor, lleno de calor, como una flor. All of us are loved. Each of us is welcome. No one is an outcast. No one is a stranger. No one is alone. Everything we do, when our hearts are grateful and our lives are faithful, makes a better world, one that we can call everybody's home.
I'll be honest that I was hoping there was another verse. Feels wonderful to be with you all this morning. Did you all get to come to Reverend Kelly Kallstrom's ordination last week? Yeah. Amanda Udis Kessler was the speaker, and it was powerful. I asked Reverend Kallstrom, Reverend Kelly, Reverend RKK, to do this with me this morning. And the reason I ask that is not because I believe that a layperson can't do the whole deal, because I've learned not to do things alone that I could do with another person. And it took me a long time to learn that lesson. It was a really, really painful lesson to learn, that I don't have to do anything in this living alone. That's why I come to Rincon Congregational United Church of Christ. And that's why anytime I'm speaking, I always ask my people, hi people, to come. It's in no way to have some type of platform, but it's to have an anchor in being. What I want to say to each of you today, that no matter who you are or where you are on this journey, you're welcome here and you're not alone. And I didn't know that for a really, long time. Will you pray with me? God of love and presence, we ask that you'll be with us this morning in these words, in this message, and in our hearts, in our thoughts, and what we do with the words, that we might leave with a little bit more curiosity and a little bit more wonder than we walked in with, and a little less alone. Amen. I'm standing in front of this group of people, and I'm guessing you all think different things. I'm guessing you all have different belief systems because I've talked to you, because I know you, and because I know that that's why we come to UCC. We come because there is not a person in here that wants to be told who God is and who God isn't. What I want to share with you today is how I have wrestled with who God is and who God isn't, in hopes that it will liberate us a little bit from having to know the name and instead be taken with the wonder of knowing. We get so caught up in how we name things, in the ideas that we name things, that we lose the wonder of the knowing, of the relationship. And that was my life for most of my life. And it brought me to some really, really dark places. If we were to sit down for an hour and share honestly from the heart about our concept of God as a child, as a teen, as a young adult, our concept of God today, we would hold a myriad of realities for who God is and who God isn't, just between the two of us and our lived experiences. We would probably use phrases like, I used to think, but now I know, I was taught, I believe. How many more differences would we find if we all did that together? That's okay. Can we let that be okay? Our concept of God is not simply built by the teachings and beliefs we embrace. It is also built by the teachings and beliefs we reject. I don't know about you, but in my living, I have had a hard time deciphering the difference between a belief and the person espousing it. This led me to give names and faces to an idea, and when I rejected the idea, I rejected the name and face of the person who said it. I rejected the person who represented a teaching I did not want to be built by or that harmed me. You say a belief, and a person from my past pops up like a Rolodex. Am I alone here? I think we all do this. It's very, very human. But I wrestle with it. I wrestle with my need to encapsulate the entirety of someone's personhood in a single moment or a series of moments in which I did not agree with them, or even was deeply harmed by them because of their words. I've encapsulated them. They remain there in my memory. That's all they are to me. They will forever be that person who said that thing, who did that thing that one time, those many times, and I have named them as such. And that speaks of hurt. They hurt me. Have you been hurt in this way, and have you been harmed in this way? I think if you're alive right now and listening to the radio and or the TV, even for 30 seconds, you are hurt and harmed in this way regularly. It's our culture currently. I feel this desperation to be whole. And I felt it my whole life. Since I was very young, I have felt an ache and a longing for deep connection with others. Some of that comes just from being. And some of that comes from being rejected. Queer people don't corner the market on rejection by the message of the mainstream Protestant church. However, if a queer person says, I used to go to a Baptist church when I was 13 until I was 18, and then I went to a Pentecostal church for the next several years. Oh, I was also a missionary in South Africa. Some rejection happened. Guaranteed. So I used to go to a Baptist church from the time I was 13 to 18, and then I went to a Pentecostal church, and then I was a missionary in South Africa. And you can fill in the blanks, right? I don't need to go there. You know what was said. You know what was done. You've heard it, you've seen it, maybe you've even been harmed by it directly. And you don't have to be queer to have been harmed by those messages, agreed? There is a specific message that gets communicated to queer people, but my dear friends, you have likely encountered the message yourself in your own living, in your own ways about yourself. The message is this: you are not enough. You are not worthy. You are built wrong. Wrong for what? For the love of God to be present with you. Ugh. What a painful message that is. It's a hateful speech. It has barbs, and those barbs may have dug in. If it didn't, I am so glad for you that it didn't. If it did not dig in, will you spend this time joining your hearts with the ones here in which it did dig in? Spend some time thinking about what pain might be existent for them in walking into this place and how we might mitigate that a little bit. If it did dig in, though, I want you to hear very clearly, you're not alone, and they weren't right. You were fearfully, wonderfully made as you are worthy, and you are enough. This has required a tremendous amount of wrestling with love to be able to say and mean those words as a queer person in church. Painful things happen to the human spirit when we believe the message of our unworthiness in the eyes of God. I believed it fully, I really did. And it did great damage to my psyche and my being. I didn't know that I believed those messages for a long time. I thought I had refused their message of rejection fully and completely. As many of you know, I was disfellowshipped, which meant they weren't in my life anymore. I lost my job, all my friends, my community, all in the same day, so they weren't a part of my living. I believed for years, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I was free from them and their ideas. There were parts of Tucson that I avoided entirely because I didn't know if I would see them, and I knew that they went there a lot. The very sight of them caused me to be harmed all over again. If I thought of them, my stomach hurt and roiled, and my heart ached, and I felt fear come over my body. At night, their words would sometimes roll around in my head, and it would keep me up. When I would hear another person, a stranger, say their ideas, I would immediately see their faces. And I thought I was free of them. What I didn't know is that their ideas of who God was lived inside of me. I carried them around with me. I went to those churches at the age of 13 and at the age of 18 looking for answers. What I found were responses that stopped me from asking questions. Those aren't the same things. I found my way to a UCC church the same way anyone finds their way to a UCC church. I was bartending at a queer rights fundraiser with the minister's lesbian wife. And she invited me. And that blew my mind. I couldn't believe that this person was non-judgmental enough to be bartending at a queer fundraiser. And I didn't know lesbians could be ministers. What? In meeting her at the age of 24, I learned that the UCC existed and soon found myself in a UCC church. I never heard of UCC before in my life. After that day, though, I started seeing you everywhere, as though newness had been awakened for me. I found people that were seeking for the sake of seeking, loving for the sake of loving, welcoming me with sincerity. Where had you been all my life? Rincon, you're a secret that many are desperate for. I trusted that minister deeply, and because of that, we started to deconstruct some of the things that I was still carrying around. One day we were talking openly about our concepts of God. I remember saying adamantly and desperately, I feel like they own God. God is theirs. God is not mine. It's not for me. She went over to her desk and pulled out an empty jar, and she set it in front of us. And she said, we're the containers. The being of God is the air. The moment we think we have God, we lost God. My admission that day that I had left God in the hands of rejecting people, in her illustration of the way I had always approached relationship with God, liberated something inside of me. And it opened my heart again. Very slowly. It wasn't like a lid off, by the way. It was a slow untwisting. It opened my heart that I, a queer, trans soul, had access to God. And I started to wrestle with who God is. I started a process where I found trusted people to say what I feared was true, what I hoped was true, and what I wanted to be free of, where God was concerned. We got down to the nitty-gritty of it. Some of that was through therapy, some of that was through friendship, some of that with a minister. All of it was allowing something different to happen for me. I have a friend who tells this. It's a little gross, but it works. He says, if I gave you an empty cup and I asked you, gross part, to spit in it while we're talking, the whole time that we're talking, and then at the end of us talking, I asked you to drink it. Oh, it just got grosser. Would you do it? No. Once it's out of you, it changes. But it has to get out of you. The silence was really deafening and hard. And finding safe people to get those messages out was the wrestling. And I didn't do it alone. I realized that in relinquishing God to the hands of people who had limited God, I had allowed God to be limited in my own life. My therapist even got into the weeds of theology with me. She was Jewish. It was fun. I got to say the inconsistencies that had never felt right and that had felt damaging out loud. I remember she once asked me, Davin, did you throw baby Jesus out with the bathwater? I started to embrace and open places that had been sealed with fear. God began to emerge for me in new ways as I relinquished old ideas. I learned wonder and awe, curiosity and seeking. It was a new way of being that I'm thankful to have learned. In 2016, I had a very different lived experience. I was diagnosed with a potentially terminal illness, and the next 5 years of my life was consumed with treatment. It became clear after a couple of years of intense treatment that my condition was worsening. The treatment was not working well. I would have days of sleeping 18 to 20 hours per day, 28 hours per day, here's something, out of sheer exhaustion. This went on for several months. I would wake up and hear my wife and mom talking about how I was doing, worried whispers in the next room, and I drift in and out of sleep. During those months, though, something was happening to me, in me. I became aware of something that had changed in a really vital way. As my body diminished, there was something vibrant and alive, very aware and alert inside of me. During those months, I became aware of the difference between body and spirit. I ate less, and yet I was somehow alive more. I had this knowing, a deep knowing, that it was all okay. Not that I would be okay, but that it was all okay. That this living, this being was truly okay beyond the end of me. I was aware of a benevolent love's presence in a way that I had never known in living before. It was nothing I was conjuring. It was nothing that I was doing to make happen. I was just so depleted, it was all I was aware of. With the lid completely off, an important lesson that changed the way I approach God today emerged. God's loving presence is always with us. Right now it is. It's simply our awareness to it that changes. Can you hear that and take that in? Love is present for you, in you, with you always. It is the ways in which we close ourselves that limit our access to it. My purpose in this world is not to espouse values, ideals, and beliefs. It is to cultivate a loving heart and have access to the source of love, to give that love to the world around me. I can shift my awareness to love in any given situation at any time. I am called to love, and I know that so clearly. So what do I do with all those people that I've encapsulated and decided were one thing? If I can be honest, I don't have a lot of access to love when they come to mind yet. I wrestle today still with the encapsulation of people as their ideas, their actions, and when I do, I think of someone from my young life. There was a woman in my life named Millie. Millie was approximately 6'17", I believe. And she was a hulking figure, and she had hair like Crystal Gale, and I loved her. And when I was 5 years old, she babysat me. And I wanted her attention more than I wanted anything. But the thing was, she really loved Star Wars, and my brother really loved Star Wars. So they had this natural, bond that I was very jealous of. The other problem was my 2-year-old brother was super cute. So he got a lot of attention, too. So I spent a lot of time feeling jealous and rejected. So I did this one day. She went to sit down while holding my 2-year-old brother, and I moved the chair. Do you like me a little less right now? I liked me a little less that day. I couldn't believe I did it. I was stunned. She was stunned. Everyone was very stunned. As a 44-year-old, I know that her tailbone probably hurt a lot. She was probably really angry. But she turned around. She put my brother down, who was fine. She took her big hands and she put them on my tiny face. She said, "Where did the love go, little one?" I think of that when I think of the people that I've encapsulated, where I can't feel love yet. And I just feel God's presence saying, "Where did the love go, little one?" Here's the thing about this. By naming people as one thing, I have made them a statue, a monument for a moment and an idea. I don't have a plan, a suggestion, or an idea about how to change that really. It's just a place within me that I recognize the lid is still on. It's a place where I have not let love in. I speak these words to each of you for the places we have not yet been liberated. We have not yet opened to the loving presence of God. And with all things, I do believe the first step that we are called to in walking this path with God is to bring our attention to it and ask God for God's help in the liberating. Jacob thought the knowing would come from the naming. God did not allow God's self to be encapsulated with a name. In this metaphor we are given for newness of being, the blessing came in the wrestling to know, not in the arrival of knowing.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. I'm Beth Shelby. I'm moderator here at Rincon. Let me get my technology working here. Many years ago, I think about 20, there are those you here who will know exactly, this congregation took a step forward into the light, joining other UCC churches in becoming an open and affirming church. We believed then, and we continue to believe, that all are created in the image of God, beloved by them. We are called to welcome, love, support, and learn from all of our siblings in God's kingdom. Love is love. God is love. God doesn't make mistakes. In June of this year, we stepped further into the light, recognizing the need to add more inclusive language to our O&A statement, a motion receiving unanimous support from the congregation. Our understanding regarding the rich tapestry and composition of God's family has grown, and we saw the need to further codify that. Love is love. God is love. God doesn't make mistakes. Today we are faced with the erosion of basic human rights across our nation, throughout our state and our city. Led by fear, ignorance, and hate, there are those who would deny the truth of God's beautiful and diverse creation. If indeed we are all created in their image, passing judgment on the result is an arrogance of binary thinking, placing limitations on the actions of the divine. Love is love. God is love. God doesn't make mistakes. Yet not all is lost. We are not without hope and power. The Talmud says, "Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." And so today, we publicly reaffirm our commitment to live out our faith, warmed by the light of truth, love, and justice. Please rise in person or in spirit as we read the new open and affirming statement. We invite and welcome into our faith community persons of every gender, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, ability, age, race, nationality, economic and social status, faith background, marital standing, and family structure. In our community of faith, all people are encouraged to participate and share their talents and energy in worship and sacraments, leadership positions, ordained ministry, lay ministry, learning, service, mission, and fellowship. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome in Rincon Congregational United Church of Christ. With God's grace, may it be so.
Please remain standing for our hymn, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, hymn 506.
And speaking of prayer, please be seated. So I never clued the IT folks in what your response will be this morning, so I'm telling you now in hopes that you can join me after each segment. Lord, hear our prayer. All right. Will you join us in a spirit of prayer this morning? Hidden and mysterious God, we seek you in our fear and in our unknowing. So come to us with tender love as we raise before you our prayers of intercession and thanksgiving. Lord, hear our prayer. Mighty God, we pray for all who carry civic and political responsibilities, both locally and throughout the world. Help the leaders of the nations put aside all selfish ambition. Help them seek governance that will allow all life to thrive and flourish. Lord, hear our prayer. Compassionate God, your love for us was revealed in Jesus, whose earthly life began in poverty and ended in pain and isolation. Draw near to all those who are struggling and comfort them in spirit. Bless those working locally to provide for them, including food banks and homeless shelters. yet open our hearts to see new possibilities to dismantle the systems that perpetuate poverty in its many forms, including poverty of spirit, poverty of relationship, and poverty of material belongings. Lord, hear our prayer. Living God, where there is emptiness, turn suffering into compassion, sorrow into joy, and pain into comfort. Remind us and guide us to your promise that you are with us always, even in the midst of our fear and despair. Let your presence be the salve to our wounds and a fitting response to the difficult circumstances that engulf us. In a moment of silence, we name aloud and in our hearts those that we are concerned about today. Melanie, Cammie, and the John family. Lord, hear our prayer. Everlasting God, we remember all those who have gone before, all the saints whose shoulders we now stand. We are grateful for their shared wisdom and encouragement. As you showed them the path forward by engaging fully and loving fiercely, may we in turn show our descendants, so that your spirit and your love may be the through line from one generation to the next. Lord, hear our prayer. Faithful God, your word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. May the things that you have revealed and the thoughts that we have shared dwell in our hearts and stir us to action. Lord, hear our prayer. O God of many names, accept these prayers for the sake of your Son and for our brother, Jesus the Christ, who taught us to pray, saying, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
I'd like to extend an invitation to generosity. All the rules and laws of our faith can be summed up in the law of love for God and one another. Everything hangs on that, the law of love. We don't just talk about love here at Rincon United Church of Christ. We bring it to life in ministry. We offer hospitality. We build community. We act in compassion. We do justice work. And in all these things, we worship and love God. And we offer our love to our neighbor. That is what this ministry and our gifts are about. And all of it hangs on love. Let us gather our gifts together and offer them to God in gratitude and praise. Lord, with thankfulness we present these gifts to you. Bless those who gave and those who could not. Use these gifts for the benefit of Rincon and those whom we support. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please stand for our final sending song.
Peace I leave with you, my friends. Shalom, my peace in all you do. Peace I leave with you, my friends. I give to you so you can give to others too. To share God's love is why I came, to show God's kindness without end. Go now, my friends, and do the same, until I come again. Peace I leave with you, my friends. Shalom, my peace in all you do. Peace I leave with you, my friends. I give to you so you can give to others too. Tend me at peace. The Spirit of our love I send, and with His love you will be free until I come again. Peace I leave with you, my friends. Shalom, my peace in all you do. Peace I leave with you, my friends. I give to you so you can give to others too. With this love now all will know that loneliness is at an end. Rejoice, my friends, although I go, for I will come again. Peace I leave with you, my friends. Shalom, my peace in all you do. Peace I leave with you, my friends. I give to you so you can give to others too.
I ain't gonna lie, I just realized I have to do the benediction. Let's say this. Let's just be aware of where the lids are on and open up our hearts and ask for help.